Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining an introduction to the networked knowledge base, connecting ideas and data sources with the Brain 12. My name is Matt Caton, and I'd also like to welcome on the call today our CEO and fearless leader, Harlan Hugh.
Okay, hello everybody.
And we're very, very excited today to be presenting not only just the topic at hand, which we all hold dear to our hearts, knowledge bases and networked information, but also to give you a wonderful introduction into our latest technology, the Brain 12. So let's go ahead and talk about that for just a moment. We're demoing today in version 12 of the Brain, currently beta software that's available to everyone. Go to our website, www.thebrain.com, and you will find a link. If you are not comfortable for any reason with beta software, you can continue on using the Brain 11 and use today as just a preview into the great, fantastic technology that's on its way. That being said, we're very, very happy with the progress that we've made with the Brain 12. That's why we're sharing it with you today. And we do invite you all to investigate, download a copy of the Brain 12. You can run the Brain 12 and the Brain 11 on the same machine, not at the same time, but on the same machine. And check out all of the fantastic new features. So you may see me share a couple of features during my demo today. And when I pass it over to Harlan this afternoon, he's really going to highlight some of the spectacular new features of the Brain 12 that we're particularly excited about. So let's go ahead and get started. I'm sharing my screen right now, and I'd like to share with you the basic principles of connecting ideas and different data sources into the brain to create a networked knowledge base. Now, a networked knowledge base, what does that mean? It could mean absolutely anything to anyone. We all work in so many different fields and keep track of different types of data. And so I've got two varying examples to share with you today. The first is a research brain that we at TheBrain Technologies put together. All of us collectively, all the employees at TheBrain have contributed over time to this brain. I'm going to share this brain with you today. And then I'll share one of my own personal brains on a personal subject matter, William Shakespeare, the writings of William Shakespeare, and how I actually dive into that type of information and create a networked knowledge base specifically on William Shakespeare. So two very, very different subject matters to give you some great ideas of different ways that you can use the brain. Now, first and foremost, let me take you on a quick tour of this brain and also share with you that everyone on today's call will receive a link to navigate through this brain online, as well as a link to download their own copy. So you can download your copy and delete what is not important to you, start adding information into areas that you do feel that you want to start mapping out and visualizing in your own copy of the COVID-19 pandemic response brain. So this brain started, I guess you'd say, back in February, March of 2020. And the brain itself started as just our own research, gathering our own data, sharing it collectively at TheBrain Technologies. And it really was mapping out all of the news that we were receiving at that time. So there was a lot of information in this brain about different areas, different states that were being affected, as well as how to order groceries online and resourceful ways to find toilet paper in your neighborhood. All of the hot topics that were happening back in early 2020. This brain has certainly evolved over time, and we're going to add some more to this brain today. So first, let me take you on a tour. As you can see, when I have the brain running, the brain is divided up into two main areas. I have what we refer to as the plex over on the left, and these are all of the interconnected thoughts. Over on the right is the content area. You'll notice as I click through thoughts in the plex the content area will update to reflect whatever subject matter or thought it is that I'm clicking on in the brain. So thoughts are the building blocks of the brain. Anytime we click on a thought, it moves that thought into the center of the plex, displays all related information around it, and as you can see, updates the content area. And the content area can be anything from web-based content, files, pretty much any type of digital data can be associated with a thought in your brain, or even your own personal notes. We'll talk about that a lot today as well. So here I've clicked down into an area of by region. By region is currently the active thought. That's my current focus. Down below are all the subcategories. We refer to those as child thoughts and parent thoughts up above. So parent, active, and child thoughts down below. And over on the left, we have jump thoughts, something that's related to the active thought, but not necessarily fitting into any type of hierarchy. And this is where you can really get creative with your brain and decide on a personal level what is going to be a subcategory versus a jump thought or a parent thought. And you can always come in and move these thoughts around and restructure the data. We'll be sharing that process with you today as well. So I'm going to click down into the United States and just click on California, the home state for the brain technologies. And as you can see, California is my current active thought, all related information being displayed around it. Over on the right, we've got the content area for California. So I can scroll down and see what's happening in California. I've got on each individual state in this brain, there's a link so you can see how the curve is doing. And new cases and so forth of corona, and also news items that are currently hot topics for that particular region or that particular state. And if I want to know more about the health department, each thought has a health department link as well. So easy access to resources specifically within that state or state officials such as Governor Newsom. Got his Twitter feed so we can see what he's sharing with the state of California. He's a member of the Pacific Regional Governors Coalition and also falls under the category of local leaders and leadership, which was a jump thought from by region, where all of my different regions are mapped out and resources mapped out. So that's just one particular area of the brain. And I use that area on a personal level to check, my parents live in Texas. I've got family living in Colorado, and I can check in to see how statistically things are happening in that particular region. But let me share with you some other important areas of this brain. We've got a wonderful area on community testing, whether it's COVID-19 testing or antibody testing and the differences between the two, with, again, documentation and resources easily available. And I can also click into an area for living with the new norm. Now, this is an area that we added in this brain after, I would say, June, July came along, and it's like, well, we've got to get comfortable with this situation and find out how things are going to work moving forward. And so we created these different areas on airline safety for airline travel and researching flattening the curve, as well as office life with COVID-19. Now, I'd like to point out in this area that not only can I click on any of the child thoughts, subcategories of this thought, but I've also mapped them out, or we have mapped them out over here in the content area as well. You'll see a lot of this in this particular brain and other demos today. So not only do I have the option of navigating through the Plex, in some areas I've mapped out just in the notes themselves all of the different subcategories. If I want to read more about the future of work with COVID-19, I can click to go directly to that area of the brain. And you'll also see on this thought down below, I've got all of my mapped links being visualized. Here's my first big sort of view of one of the great new features of the brain, is that we can navigate through the structure that we've created even without the Plex open. So I'm going to minimize the Plex, and if I just want to click back up, as you can see, I'm in the area of office life with COVID-19. And everything that you saw in the Plex is accessible to me here in the notes as well. So I can see all of the related thoughts, the mapped links. So these are the parent thoughts, child thoughts, and jump thoughts that are related to my current active thought. Also backlinks, other thoughts in the brain that have a link that navigate directly to this thought. And then of course, unlinked mentions. Now I don't have a lot of notes in this brain. I'll show you in another brain example where I've got a lot of specific notes where in the note it mentions another thought name and shows up in the unlinked mentions. So you'll see more of this. I just wanted to give you a quick preview and share with you that we can continue clicking and navigating using that area, our footer area, the links, backlinks and mentions to navigate through the structure that we've created. But here in this particular area of the brain, I also want to share with you an area that was created that I really particularly enjoy. You know, there's a lot of information, a lot of science, a lot of difficult, hard to swallow information in this brain about things that are going on in the world. We created an area called Inspirations and Accidental Silver Linings. And it's just some of the positive news that's happening today that we keep track of from time to time, whether it's cleaner air in Los Angeles. There's a lot of, sort of fun videos that are out there on YouTube, even celebrities. And as you can see, I've got easy access over here in the content area to those videos. And around the world as well. If we click on, Venice's canals are becoming even clearer and cleaner due to the fact that there's simply no tourists there right now. So we've got crystal clear water happening in Venice. And as you can see, that particular thought is not only inspirational, but it falls under Italy, which is one of our regional areas that we're tracking in the bi-region area of this particular brain. So one last category that I want to share with you, because it's just such a hot topic right now, are treatments and vaccines. And this is where I'm going to be spending a little bit of time now, just because this is the new focus. Before it was flattening the curve, social distancing, how do we grocery shop online? We're finally at the point now where we're all talking about vaccines. What's working? When are we going to get it? Is it safe? Has it been tested? All that information is being tracked here and monitored. You can see I can click on some existing content. Remdesivir, I always have a hard time pronouncing that. If I want to know more about it, we've got some different research papers that we've found, including videos, so I can just click and once again, just simply launch this right in my content area of the brain. So I can learn how to pronounce it and learn more about it there as well. So, and of course, as you can see, if I come back to treatments and vaccines, there is a lot of information. Actually, I created a couple of pins on pharmaceutical companies that are in the news right now. So let's go ahead and start bringing some new content into this brain. Let's talk about how this data was created. I'm also going to share with you the fact that multiple people contributed to this brain, and I can research and review everyone's contributions and content in this collaborative brain as well. So as you can see here in this particular area of the brain, one particular area that's getting a lot of interest right now, Pfizer, BioNTech. You can see they're linked both to one another. They fall under Germany. These are German companies that are currently researching new vaccines. So all that information is now accessible to me at my fingertips. If I want to create a new thought, let's just start with new thoughts in the brain. You'll notice that every thought in the brain has three small gates: the parent gate, the jump gate, and the child gate down below. Anytime I want to create a new thought, I can simply click and drag off the gate and start typing in my new thought name. So let's say I want to specifically study on what is new and happening with BioNTech in 2021. I'm focusing on the new year now, what's going to be going on. So new research for 2021. So I simply click and drag and create this new thought as a child thought underneath BioNTech. So I can easily start bringing in, navigating through, and adding information specifically into this area of my brain. So that's how we can create a thought. Of course, I want to point out at this point, we've got many, many options for you as far as indexing to automatically populate areas of your brain very, very quickly. Not indexing, excuse me, importing. So many different file types can be imported into your brain. Today, I'm just creating this thought by thought, and that's how this particular brain was created, just one thought at a time over time to create this pretty significant data structure. So let's start bringing in some web content from scratch, or for starters. I am going to open up my browser, and I actually have some existing content. In this document, I noticed they're talking a lot about some of the new rules that are happening with 2021. They're specifically talking about how they are going to be researching the vaccines that are coming and getting vaccinated, vaccines coming in from BioNTech and Pfizer. So under my thought for research for 2021, I simply want to bring in a link to this article. Just close it again, sorry about that. And I'll open that back up. And bringing in web content is a very, very simple process. There's actually several different ways you can bring web content into the brain. I like to typically, I have the web page open and I'm in the right area of my brain where I want to bring it in, and I can simply drag and drop. So this is an Associated Press article. Simply drag and drop this into the brain. It creates a new child thought. The child thought will sometime be renamed depending on how the web page was set up. If it has a title tag, it'll pick that up. If not, I can modify this myself. So you can go in and manipulate how thoughts will be displayed, what icons they'll have, and so forth. And that's by simply clicking on the active thought again and opening up the thought properties display. So I can simply retype, and this article is Japan records a new record high. So, and this is research that's happening for 2021 for Japan. I also want to link this to my thought for Japan. You've seen earlier, I've got thoughts for all of sort of the major companies or not companies, countries and regions that are important to me, or just important in the research and development of what's going on with COVID-19. So therefore, I want to link this up to my thought for Japan, which I know is there. And notice I just click and drag a link and start typing in my new thought name. As I'm typing letter by letter, I'll just say J, and you can see there's all the thoughts that contain a word that start with J or JA. And if I eventually type in most of the word Japan there, I can see it's filtered the list. I can double click on an existing thought and link this thought to both new research for 2021 that is taking place for BioNTech, and it directly links up to Japan. So regardless of how I'm browsing through this brain in the future, looking for information, or just simply checking out what's new in different areas that are important to me, I'll still be able to find the relevant information. I can link this thought to as many different related pieces of information as I'd like. I've got another example that I'd like to share with you. And for that one, I'm going to jump a little bit ahead and go to a recent story about Dolly Parton. Now, this brain never ceases to surprise me that we've built over time. You know, I never thought we would be where we are today with COVID-19 when the brain first was developed and started evolving. It's evolved so much, and I shouldn't be surprised at all that now I'm adding a thought for Dolly Parton into the COVID-19 brain. But once again, she is a major player in what's going on. She's hot in the news with a recent contribution that she gave, not so recent contribution, but it recently paid off because of some money that went to a school. I believe here in the article, it mentions it went to Vanderbilt University. So I have a thought in this brain for my sort of heroes of COVID-19. I'm going to go to the heroes thought. Let me share with you now that everything that's going into your brain, whether it is a thought name, a note, which we haven't even talked about yet, or files, documents, Word documents, PDF files, it's all being indexed actually by your operating system, which means Spotlight on Mac OS and Windows Desktop Search on a Windows machine. It's indexing the data that's going into your brain, even the shortcuts to files and documents that thoughts might be pointing to, all being indexed by your operating system and therefore show up in search results. So the larger your brain gets over time, it's still very, very simple and easy to navigate through that brain, find the data and information you're looking for. I'm looking for my hero's thought, and there it is, our heroes. And I'm simply going to create a new thought for Dolly Parton. And I can grab this web link and simply drag and drop as a child thought underneath. So I'm sure there's going to be a lot more press releases and news and information about a celebrity who made this contribution. There you can see the BBC website named this entertainment artist and gave it a code. I just want to rename this with the title of the actual document. So I'm going to copy that and come into my brain. And you saw earlier that I simply clicked to open up the thought properties display where I can manipulate how that thought looks and feels. Another thing that I can do is right from the notes area, I can click on the title of the note, and here I'll just select, and it's a little off screen, there we go, and simply paste that in. I'm going to take off the pound sign, I don't need that. And so I can simply rename a thought right from the notes. I can not only navigate, but rename thoughts as well right from the notes area. My second sort of hint at one of the new features in the Brain 12. So easily rename that note. So I've got a nice little article directly to that article on Dolly Parton. And I want to actually place a note. Let's go ahead and talk about notes now. I want to just type in a little note. You know, I might come to this thought in the future, or someone else on my team that I'm sharing this brain with might come to this thought in the future and think, why is there a thought for Dolly Parton, a country singer, here in the COVID-19 brain? So I just simply want to type in that Dolly gave a 1 million, so I'll just say, whoops, $1 million gift to and that's, I believe, in Tennessee, which was, or no, is a research center for Moderna. Now, if you'll notice in my notes, I actually have my spell check turned off. That was a very, very dangerous trick for me to perform because I have spell check and I spelled Vanderbilt wrong. So I can right click and Vanderbilt and correct that. But regardless, you'll notice two of the thoughts that I have in my brain are being underlined with, for me in my setting, my color theme, it's underlined in a blue line. That is not a misspelling. That is signaling to me a mention. And what a mention is in the Brain 12 is anytime I'm typing into the notes, if there's another existing thought that exists that is being mentioned here in my notes, my brain is going to remind me of that connection. So I can start learning more from the data that I'm putting into the brain. The brain is actually helping me, training my own organic brain of other related pieces of information. So a really, really valuable, fantastic new feature of the Brain 12. And of course, now I'm just going to use the right click. That's how I like to either activate or link to those other existing thoughts. So I don't necessarily want a link from Dolly Parton to Moderna. here in the structure of my Plex, but it is very interesting that this is why she's one of today's heroes, is she's made this contribution. So I'm just simply going to select to keep that link in the structure of my notes. And now I can click to go directly to, if I do want to learn more about what is happening with Moderna, I can click and go to the Moderna thought. I can see the Moderna, it's a US company, and all of the information down below that's going on with their research is quite easily accessible. And from my brain, I can click back to the Dolly Parton thought to easily navigate back and forth between the two. Or if you remember, down below are all of my mapped links, backlinks, and mentions. I now have a backlink to Moderna, so if I click that thought once again, and I'm going to close the web attachment and scroll down, you can see there's that backlink. So even from the structure of the notes, if I'm reviewing all the different related pieces of information, I can see there's a backlink to the Dolly Parton thought here in my brain. And there's another Dolly Parton thought that I want to link underneath Dolly Parton. I just caught a glimpse of it. So I'm going to link this to my Dolly Parton thought. So anytime I discover some type of relationship, or the brain will help me find those as I'm typing or as I'm navigating through the brain, I can simply and very, very quickly make those additional connections to better understand the information in the future. And since this contribution was to Tennessee, a college in Tennessee, I'm going to right click and link to the Tennessee thought as well. So I can find out how things are going in Tennessee and do continue on with my research there. So we've created some notes. We've added some web content. I also want to talk a little bit about files and documents. So local files, local documents. With the web content, anything with a unique URL can be brought into the brain. So we could take the time to show you how Dropbox files and Google Drive, they all have a unique URL, even files that are being created in Office 365. They've got that unique URL. If you can copy and paste that or click and drag that into the brain, you can easily connect to that data. But let's now talk about local data. And I've got just one local file that I want to share with you. It's a recent a PDF that I found recently called Stay at Home. And I think this came from Wisconsin. So I'm going to go to my Wisconsin thought. And so since it probably specifically mentions, the laws that are happening in Wisconsin, it is a guide for kids, how kids can stay active during this time. It's very interesting and has a lot of great examples of, writing letters to grandparents, learning how to use Zoom and so forth. So I want to reference that in my brain as well. And I kind of think that's sort of a silver lining, reconnecting in new ways with people. So I'm going to click and drag this file right into the brain. Now, the default for dragging and dropping into the brain is to create a copy of the original document. So notice the document is still there on my desktop. And now I have this internal attachment. PDFs are great because you'll get the preview of that PDF and you can navigate through the PDF in the brain's PDF viewer, the content viewer. So I can click to navigate from page to page. You can zoom in and out of that page and navigate through the document without ever leaving the brain. So once again, I feel like that's sort of a silver lining. So I'm just gonna, oops, if I could spell it right. There it is, inspirations and silver lining, new ways to connect with people. So I'll just double click and link to that existing thought as well. So once again, the drag and drop simply creates a copy of the original. Please note that you can always go back and redefine how you want your brain to behave for drag and drop in the future. So in other words, there's some keystrokes that you can use, or what I really want to share with you is going into your brain preferences. Now on a Mac, you would click on the brain preferences. On a Windows machine, options preferences. And on the behavior tab, you can specify how you want the application to behave for drag and drop. Now, there's a lot of modifications that you can make to your application, to the brain application. You may be noticing that I've got a different wallpaper. I've got sort of a darker background to the frame of TheBrain. That's because I run the application with the compact toolbar in dark mode. There's so many different fantastic settings in the Brain preferences to really make the application work best for your environment. And that's really just one of them. On the Behavior tab, specifying whether you want your files to be automatically moved into the Brain, linked, or copied into the Brain when you use drag and drop. I'll go ahead and switch mine now. I typically exist in this setting, moving files into the Brain. There are also, I'll point this out really quickly, and I think Harlan might share a few of these features with us, some really fantastic keyboard settings. Now, several of the keyboard, I'll just expand a few here. Several of the different settings are automatically mapped out, as you can see. Highly customizable, so you can actually go in and map out keyboard shortcuts. Many new keyboard shortcuts integrated into the Brain 12 as well. So you can even use the application without a mouse if that fits the bill for you. So regardless, we've drag and dropped a document in. You can also create new documents from scratch. So let's say I want to create a sort of, an outline for letter to friends. That's one of the things in this particular document is penmanship and revisiting penmanship, writing letters to people. So I am going to start my own little thought here for letters to friends. So I create my new thought. And for this particular thought, I want a Word document with just sort of the basic outline. I'm going to create a letter that goes out to all my friends with just an update of my life and how it's doing. Now, of course, I could create this in the notes as well, but for this example, I might have many different versions depending on if it's a work colleague or a college colleague or a family member. So I'm going to click on adding an attachment and select the option to select from one of my file templates. Now, if you don't see what you're looking for in this template list and you want to build this template list out yourself, when you click on attachments, there are options for you for template help. Just follow these on-screen instructions. It's going to open up a directory. Anything you drop into that directory will show up for you as a file template. So you can customize that list with your own custom letterhead or a file type that is unique to your operating system. For me, I'm going to click on attach and add a file from a template and just select a Word document. So Microsoft Word, it attaches a Word document. Actually, that opened on another monitor. Let me bring that onto the screen. And here is my letter. So now we're creating new documents from scratch. I click on save. Word doesn't ask me where I want to save this file to. It's saved internally for this particular thought in my brain. And if I close the attachment window, you can see that attachment appears at the very top. I can have multiple attachments. That's letters to friends. Let's attach another template, another Word document. And this one is letters to family. So to family, and I'll save that and close it. And now you can see there are two attachments. Now by default, I did it too quickly. I could have renamed that document as I was creating it. I'm going to right click and select to modify this particular document. This one is letter to family. So I can rename that attachment. I've got two attachments. The attachments layout in the Brain 12 also has been redesigned for a much sleeker and sort of space efficient design in version 12. So I have easy access to all of those attachments. Now, I've shared a lot of information with you, how to drag and drop in web pages, how to create new notes, how to link in your notes to other thoughts, adding file attachments, whether it's existing attachments or new documents. I want to share with you really quickly before I hand presenter over to Harlan, the other example that I had today, and that is my Shakespeare brain. And I'm more than happy to share a copy of this brain and a link to this brain online with everyone on today's webinar as well. A lot of wonderful resources are in here, and you may think to yourself, well, the works of Shakespeare can be found on anywhere on the web, and they certainly can, but this is my research that I'm doing. So I not only have access to everything he's ever written, every single comedy, history, poem, sonnet, it's all here word for word. So I can go to A Midsummer Night's Dream, for example. And here you can see in the notes, I've got sort of an outline of the actual play itself. The play, as you can see, is added as an attachment. So I can click and go right into the actual script of the play. But notice even in the play itself are all of the links and mentions. So if I'm reading through the play and I think, Demetrius, I can't remember who Demetrius is and why is he being mentioned, stand forth Demetrius. I can learn more about these characters by using those links and mentions that appear for me. So I, once again, just like to right click and I'm going to activate the Demetrius thought. And here in this area of the brain, I have sort of a character study for this particular play. So Demetrius, as you can see, he's the character that's in love with Hermia. Hermia is in love with Lysander. Lysander is in love with Helena, who is in love with Demetrius. Thus, the basis for the star-crossed lovers in the play of Midsummer Night's Dream. And one last component with you that I'll share with you in my character study. There's a lot to this particular brain. I sometimes do entire webinars just with this brain alone, but I've recently started with all my characters putting in some of my favorite lines for individual characters. And one of my favorite lines for Lysander, let me get my mouse back. And so I'll just put this in an asterisk and type in, or else, sorry, I have to look at my keyboard from time to time, make sure I spell things right. Misgraphed in respective years. And notice right away that misgraphed is underlined with the blue. Once again, saving me. It's not easy to know in Shakespeare what all these words mean. In a different area of this brain, I have my entire Shakespearean sort of dictionary that I've created, words that I need to study and understand what they mean. So once again, I can right click. I'll go ahead and link to misgraphed and then go to that thought, which is mean obsolete or badly matched. So badly matched in age, sort of a little insult that he throws out to old people in the play that I think is kind of comical. So one of my favorite lines, and I link over here into my dictionary for all of the random and crazy words that occur under resources for my William Shakespeare brain. So once again, a lot of fun things happening in this particular brain, just another great example of how data can be fall under a rainbow of flavors, whether you're researching the next great vaccine for COVID-19 or simply some of your favorite authors in the brain. Very, very wonderful new features in version 12 that can help you out with that. And with that, I am going to hand it over to what you've all been waiting for, the great new features of version 12 with our CEO, Harlan Hugh. So Harlan, I am going to make you the presenter now.
Okay. Thank you for that, Matt.
There we go.
Okay. So I believe I have shared my screen. Hopefully you guys can see me okay.
Yes.
Okay. I was preparing or thinking about this demo a little bit yesterday, and I decided in the end that I would just show you guys my actual brain. So this is a little bit of a risky move on my part because I have a lot of kind of secret stuff and things that I want people to people to know about. So what I did is I went through and sort of set up some of those thoughts as private thoughts, and then I've gone ahead and turned on the option to hide the private thoughts. So that's one nice little thing that you can do. But I thought that people would be interested to see this, and it'll kind of give you an idea of how I use it. You know, I've been using the brain since I started working on it pretty much but this brain has been around since at least 1995. I've got a lot of stuff in it, as you can imagine. But kind of the key things are all right here, available within 2 or 3 clicks for me. So the way I have it set up is that the home thought has a lot of the information that's kind of like core to my identity, right? So the business, the things I do, the thoughts I have, and then kind of like a reference section that maps out sort of my view of the world. And then the other pins that you see along the top of the screen, I've got 5, 6 pins here, and one of those is not connected to anything. But within those 5 pins, I can access well over 300 thoughts with just 3 clicks. So including the click to that pin. So that just gives you an idea of how well this thing can scale in terms of getting you to information really, really quickly. And that's not something that I consciously set out to do. It's just kind of like how it evolves, right? So whenever I'm working on an important project, I'll add it up there as a pin, and everything is going to be connected right there. And then things that I'm just using over time on a regular basis, they wind up staying there. And things that I stop doing, I remove from the pins. Yeah, I mean, you can really get an idea of what a brain's all about just by looking at the pins usually. And so for me, I have the pin for myself, of course, and then I've got this one called the hit list. And essentially the hit list is like my to-do list, right? And I have a couple things in the hit list, or 2 sections rather. Basically, the notes serve as kind of the immediate things that I want to work on right away. And those are things that are more kind of transient in nature. Usually I keep that pretty short. And when I finish something, I'll just delete it, right? So those are tasks that are kind of like throwaway tasks, if you will. And then below the hit list as child thoughts, I have kind of more long-term to medium-term projects that I'm thinking about doing but haven't really got into yet, right? So for the things that I'm actually working on right now, that's where I put those into kind of current projects. And you can see here that I'm working on a bunch of different things, but one of the things I've been working on is this renovation to my house. And then another thing that I've been working on recently, which I'll show you guys a little bit, is this laptop with ASUS Republic of Gamers, which features TheBrain. So it's got a built-in brain button, and it's really kind of top-end fast machine. It's pretty cool. You can read about it on our website. It's a little hard to get right now. It's kind of been sold out a lot of places, but just to give you an idea of kind of how this works, you can see that this project is one of the current projects, and it's got connected to it all of the people and projects and sub-projects and so forth that are connected to it, right? And also to give you an idea of how the brain is organized, I'll just kind of peek through this a little bit. So from here, you can see I've got this under Republic of Gamers, which is under ASUS, and that keeps going up here until we get into technology, which is one of the sections under world, which is kind of my reference view of how I see the world. And I don't really go out of my way to try to make it like picture perfect accurate. I just put the things that are relevant to me. So for example, if I go back to computer brands here, I don't have every single brand in here, and some of the brands in here are no longer around, but these are companies that I've done research on or I've worked with or what have you, right? So it's not really meant to be a comprehensive view of the world, but more of the world as I've interacted with it and the portions of it that I want to track. One thing about the brain that I like to talk about or kind of mention to people in terms of how they think about it is you can use it for 2 types of information, and that is I kind of touched on that earlier. Transitive information and kind of reference information. So transitive being things that are not important in the long term, but things that you just need right now. And that kind of stuff is things that kind of come and go. And in my brain, usually those things kind of drop off pretty quickly. I'll put them in there, and then just delete them right away as soon as I'm done with them. But I don't have to decide that in advance, right? I just put the things into my brain where they belong, and then when I'm done with it, if I leave it, then it becomes kind of reference information. And later on, if I decide, oh, that's not really that interesting, I can forget it and have it in my brain, but just not kind of in my not distracting me, right? And so yeah, so when you're organizing your brain, my recommendation is that you not think about it too much in terms of like, oh, is this really important, or where does this belong exactly? And you can, because you can get really kind of hung up on those things. But if you just use it, you're going to find that it evolves on its own, kind of like your real brain does, in that you're not trying to build a comprehensive knowledge base of every single topic that you get into, just the pieces of information that are useful to you, right? And the same thing applies to your digital brain. So anyway, I want to show you some of the other kind of pins I have here. The current projects, again, as I said, is the things that I'm working on right now. And then I've got a few other pins here, and these are kind of things that I'm working on, and I want to keep kind of top of mind, right? I want to keep them visible to me at all times, so that I can kind of access them right away, of course, but also so that it prompts me to keep on thinking about those things, right? So this real estate up here is very important, and I like to keep it fairly streamlined, so that the things that are there have a lot of mind share. And one of the other things that I've got up here, you'll notice, is something called Scratchpad. And this is really what I want to focus on for the demo today. This is kind of a new concept that I've recently started. And what it is, as you can see, it's not connected to anything. But what it is it's a place where I can go in and just write down anything that I'm thinking about without having to think about where to put it, right? So it's like a notepad that I can pull out at any time, right? So for example, if I were to come in here and I wanted to, write some ideas down from the demo that Matt just gave, I could just come in here and say, okay, I want to type something about, COVID-19 vaccines, right? And Moderna and Pfizer. How do you spell Pfizer? P-F-I-Z-E-R. Hey, I got it right. So as you can see, I've got this in here now, and I've also got a lot of other stuff. This other content that you see here, this is actually the preparation for this demo, right? So I was working on this last night, and I didn't really want to think about where to put it. I just put it right here. So I'll get to kind of how this evolves over time in a second here. But what I do want to show you here right now is that I'm using headings and subheadings in order to organize this information, and that allows me to go in here and collapse different things. So I can go in and see how things are organized just by clicking on like expand and collapse areas. And that works not only for headings, but also when you have an outline like this, you can show the different sections and open them. And it really lets you kind of see what you have without having to kind of scroll up and down through things, and it lets you summarize things very nicely. So that's one of the new features in version 12. But I'm not really trying to kind of go over all the features, but just kind of mention them as they come up here. But anyway, the concept that I really want to get across here is that the Scratchpad is a place where I can go in and add things without having to think about them. And generally what I do is I keep it empty. And the way I do that is by converting these things into full thoughts that I can then connect up into other sections of my brain. So for example, if I want to go in here and say, the COVID-19 vaccines, this is something that really belongs somewhere else. I can select that content here, right-click, and say Extract Child Thought. And what this is going to do is take all of that content there and put it out here as a separate thought. And now I can take this and connect it up wherever I want. And you can see that the other content has been pulled in as the note. The same thing goes for this content. I've got my brain demo here, and I'm going to select all this. And again, I'll right-click and say Extract Child Thought. And there we go. I've got the Brain 12 demo connected here now. So that's a nice cool thing about the Scratchpad is I can very easily extract things and separate them out as their own thoughts. So for the Brain 12 demo here, I might want to then move this under the Brain 12. So what I can do is create a parent thought here and start typing the Brain 12. And then when I connect that, I'm going to hold down the Shift key. And as you can see, it's disconnected from Scratchpad, and now it's right here under the Brain 12. So a few of the other things I wanted to point out real quickly here is as I'm inside of this thought here, Matt mentioned the unlinked mentions already. And as you can see, they're also highlighted here in my notes. And I've got one here for the Brain 12, of course. And I can right-click on it and activate it. Of course, I've already connected it up, but now we're right here. So that's a nice way to be able to navigate through things without having to actually make structural links inside the brain, right? But the way that we have the connections built out inside the content area now is we've got what we call mapped links, and these are the things that are kind of mirroring what you have in the Plex. And we think of those as kind of the structural ways that information is connected. And then the connections within the content, those are backlinks and unlinked mentions. And backlinks are where one thing is connected to another from within a note, and then the reverse link is the backlink. So there's none here in this case, but you also have unlinked mentions. And unlinked mentions are places where the name of the thought has been specifically mentioned, and it has a way of aggregating information. So I want to show you a good example of that, which I have in here. So here's the features list for the Brain 12, and I was working on this not too long ago for the post on the Brain blog. What I tend to do is compose all of my writing inside of the Brain these days, and then transfer that into our website and so forth. But as you can see here, I've written out the features for the Brain 12, and one of the things that it mentions is that we've changed the way that the Brain box is working. And this is a concept, of course, which I also have inside my Brain elsewhere. And if I right-click on this, I can activate the Brain box slot. And now you can see I have some information here on the Brain box. But there's not a whole lot of description of what Brain box is or what it does. I've just got kind of an empty note. But because of the unlinked mentions feature, I can just scroll down here and learn all kinds of things about Brain box just based on other places that I talked about it. And what's important to note here is that all of this content was built, of course, before version 12 existed. So all of your existing content is kind of be leveraged automatically by this feature. So as you can see, there's a lot of things kind of talking about BrainBox here. And of course, BrainBox was a feature of the Brain 10, and that's our one of the releases in the third generation of the Brain. So okay, yeah. So those are kind of the key features that I wanted to mention for the Brain 12. There's a lot more going on, of course, and a lot of other things that we could get into, but we do have a limited amount of time here. We're almost all the way up at the top of the hour here, and I do want to have some time for a Q&A. So I'm going to stop right there, and let's go ahead and talk about whatever you guys want.
Great, thanks, Harlan. And I'll turn on my webcam as well. And we've got quite a few questions, and the questions are all coming in. So first and foremost, let me share with you that Jay and I will try to get to all of those questions. We're picking some to present to Harlan. If we don't get to your question here on the QA, you can always contact us at support@thebrain.com. Happy to answer all your V12 questions. But first and foremost for Harlan, the first question that I saw that came in is reaching way back here, a very interesting question. How did you come up with TheBrain? Can you give us a background on that?
Sure, yeah. Yeah, it's been quite a long time, shockingly. But yeah, when I was a kid, a teenager. I mean, I started working with on computers and programming and so forth when I was much younger. But when I was a teenager, I was particularly frustrated that I was so excited about the potential for computers and what they could do for people in terms of organizing their thoughts and kind of really expanding their minds. But nobody that I knew kind of recognized that. And I thought, well, maybe the problem is that we're telling people that the computer is just like your desk, and it's got files and folders and trash cans, and all these things, and that's really kind of the metaphor that was used to explain the computer to a lot of people. And for its time, of course, that was a great idea, and it was far ahead of kind of a command line type interface for getting people to understand the potential. But it's fundamentally limited in that you're kind of telling people how to use something based on something else that's far more limited. So I thought it was much more inspirational to say, well, instead of looking at a desktop as kind of the key metaphor for what the computer can do, let's switch that up and use the human brain. And as soon as I had that idea, kind of everything basically fell into place in terms of associations and connections and forgetting information and analyzing it and all of these things. And one of the first things that I wanted to do actually was to build a really great notes editor so that you could type right into it. And I kind of thought back when I started, oh, this will be, not that hard. But as it turns out, that was a very, very difficult task, and we wound up not doing it until very recently. The first version of TheBrain used Microsoft's RTF editor, which was kind of built into Windows at the time. And then when we went cross-platform, we went with an off-the-shelf product, and in version 9, we used the kind of a browser-based editor, which is what almost everything is these days. And then, of course, with version 11, we finally got to fulfill that original vision and create our own editor from scratch. And I think that a lot of the work that we put in there is really starting to pay off in version 12 now, that we can kind of do virtually anything inside the notes editor and have full control over it and be able to leverage it. But sorry, I got off on a bit of a tangent there, but.
No, that's good. That sort of answers the next question, but maybe you want to expand on it a little bit, which is what were some of the key factors that went in specifically to version 12 from 11 to 12?
Yeah, so basically, with version 11, we knew we needed to improve the notes editor, and we wanted to get out something as quickly as possible. So the goal was kind of replicate the existing functionality, but make it really reliable and solid. And I think we accomplished that. But then with version 12, what I wanted to do was enable it in specific ways that are ideal for kind of nonlinear note taking, right? Kind of the associative nature of the brain, applying that to the notes themselves, right? So that's why the focus is on links. And back in the day when wikis came out, I was always kind of like a tiny bit jealous because like uh, they enabled people to make connections between words and concepts, kind of really free form and quickly. And that's kind of like what the brain's all about, but not in a text-based fashion, but more of a kind of a structural, conceptual nature. But I always wanted to take that concept and make it a reality and seamlessly integrate it with the brain. So that's kind of the inspiration for a lot of the features that you see in version 12 in terms of being able to create connections and link concepts very quickly. And then the backlinks and mentions, those are other ways of leveraging those same relationships that are within the notes that are possible now because we have kind of pretty good indexing and searching that enables us to surface those connections kind of immediately for the user.
Yeah, I feel that I've shared with so many people. I'm learning from my own notes now by all of those backlinks showing up and all the existing data that I already have that my organic brain forgot I had. So someone asked the question, does it automatically just show up in 12 or is it only with new content? It'll automatically be there. So if the node is referencing another existing thought, as soon as you upgrade to 12, you'll be seeing those backlinks.
That's right. That's right. Version 12 actually is totally backward compatible with version 11, which wasn't or backward and forward compatible, I should say. Meaning that if you start something in 12, you can still access it in 11. There's no extra data actually created. It's all done dynamically, right? So that's a kind of a nice thing in terms of if you want to try it out, and you might want to go back to 11. But also, it's relevant in that it's as a consequence, it illustrates that everything is happening kind of on the fly, and it's all based on the indexes and kind of analysis of the content that we do as you navigate through the notes.
Great. And Carol asked the question, I think a great question, and maybe we can go back to a little bit of a demo for this. Do you keep secure or sensitive files in your brain? And so Harlan, while you're maybe setting up a quick little sample, I'll share with you, your brain your account is password protected, the data is secure that you're syncing to the cloud. You can contact us at support@thebrain.com if you want to know more about our online security, but individual files in the brain, Harlan can probably share more with us there.
Yeah, so if I wanted to have some secret stuff here, I can have. I'm not going to be very creative here, but I've got some secret stuff here that I want to add in. I'll create the child thought for that, and then from here, I can have not only the notes here, but for something that I really want to have kind of absolutely secure from prying eyes, what I can do is add an attachment. Just for fun, I'll make it another markdown file here. Let's just say it's passwords. That's probably a pretty good one. So I'm going to create here a markdown file that's attached that has all my passwords, right? I don't recommend you do this, but if you have to, this is a sort of reasonably acceptable way of doing it, right? So let's say my car alarm password. Okay, I've got a fancy new car that lets me use type in numbers. I can say that's 1, 2, 3, 4, and I don't want anyone to be able to find this, right? So first of all, I've got it here under my secret stuff thought, and I've got this passwords attachment. But if somebody were to come to my machine now and open my brain, they would see this information right here. And even if I had my computer locked up and they couldn't log in to access all my stuff, they could still look at the hard drive and maybe find this file, right? So it's not terribly secure. And if you're worried about security in terms of hosting and things like that, when your brain is synced to the cloud, somewhere on the cloud is that data. We do store it in an encrypted fashion, but it is something that has to be decrypted, of course, for you to access. If you want to have kind of all the keys to that kingdom yourself, in TheBrain 12, we've added a new feature here where you can encrypt a file. So if I right-click on this and say encrypt, I can now kind of give a password and a hint about that password. So I can say, latest password, and I'll say, I don't know, new. Don't say too much about what the password is in the prompt, but then here I can type in my actual password. So let's say I'll type Hawaii 695. Okay. So now when I hit encrypt, what it's going to do is it's going to take this this file that I'm encrypting and completely make it unreadable to everybody, unless they have this password, including me, of course. So that's why you have to check this box. But once I click that encrypt button, what you're going to see is that that file is no longer available, and it's now got this new extension, BRENC, which is kind of for brain encryption. And if I go ahead and look at the thought folder, so I was going to do it with a keyboard shortcut, but I'll do it this way so you guys can see what I'm doing. Where is it? Open thought folder. Okay, maybe I have that turned off. Anyway, I hit Control-Shift-F. I'll open that thought folder. And now I can see in here, here's the notes markdown file that we were just typing in. And here's the encrypted file. So if I open this and, okay, I guess I don't have it set up here. I'm just going to open this up in a text editor so you guys can see kind of what this looks like. You can see that the hint information that I have here is in the clear, but everything else is completely encrypted. And there's no way for anyone, including me as one of the authors of this software, to access that information. But later on, if I want to go in and access that file, when I click on it, it'll show me that that hint that I gave myself. And if I type in the password, well, first of all, if I type the wrong password, it's going to say that's wrong. And I actually don't remember what I typed, so Hawaii 695, I think.
Yeah.
If I click decrypt, it's now showing me the contents of that document. So in this case, I used kind of one of our built-in file types of the markdown file. But this could be a photograph or a Word document or a spreadsheet or what have you. So yeah, that's a nice new feature in TheBrain 12 for secure storage of information.
Great. And then Harlan, one more question that just came in. How did multiple people contribute to the Covet brain? I think I mentioned earlier that it was a collaborative effort. I'm not sure if you've got a copy of the Covet brain on this particular machine. If not, I can take presenter back and share that each individual brain has its own unique history. Every thought, the application is keeping track of all the changes on that particular thought. And then of course you can view recent changes, and Harlan probably just needs to sync there. He's clicking on sync, and all of the recent changes that any of us on the team that have access to this brain will show up, so you can see who's contributing, who's collaborating, what changes people made when, and specifically what they were. Was it a change to the note or to the content and so forth?
Yeah. So here you can see, I've got the changes that Matt just made, and as I go through these changes, it'll tell me kind of what happened when. I want to say I can see Matt's beautiful picture here, so I can see who did what. I can also go through this and change the way that it's filtered. So if I'm only interested in what Matt's done, I can click that, and I can change the date range and so forth. And of course, clicking on all of these things will take me to the relevant thought, right? So that's kind of a key feature for collaborating, is being able to know who did what and when. But also for each individual thought, I can also go in and view the history and see what was done and so forth. So kind of a global and localized history of what's been happening. But yeah, TheBrain is kind of a great platform for collaborating, because it enables people to really structure the data in a way that's easy to explore. One of the problems with collaborating in kind of a folder structure is that when you put a piece of information in, you might say, well, this piece of data belongs under research, and somebody else might say, well, this piece of data really belongs under vaccines. With TheBrain, of course, you don't have to make that choice. You can connect it up in as many ways as you like, and different people can therefore kind of start merging their views and create a kind of a shared understanding of the content.
Great, and yeah, just to let everyone know, there's all the different information, pieces of information about what features are available on what license type, whether it's the free version, the Pro Combo, or up to a collaborative version that's TeamBrain, available on our website, or you can send a note into us, support@thebrain.com, if you do want to know more about TeamBrain. And Harlan, I'll leave you with this. We're just over the hour now, a little bit over the hour. So final question, a great question that came in, and I'll let you take it where you wish. What does the future hold for TheBrain?
Uh-oh.
We're not even out of beta with version 12, and everyone's ready for what's coming in version 13, Harlan.
Well, we've got a lot of interesting things planned. The collaborative aspects that we've been showing here are something that we're always working on. So there's a few things coming up there that I have in mind, that I don't really want to talk about, but.
Well, I'll share this
but
then. We're always listening. A lot of what happened with version 12 came from discussions with, on the Brain forums, forums.thebrain.com. And, we're
yes.
always listening to what people are asking of us and from us. And feel free to contribute to the conversation on forums, or write into us at support@thebrain.com.
Yeah, one of the things that, I always have a little bit of I guess trouble communicating with people effectively is that it's not that we don't want people to know what we're working on. It's more that we don't want to let people down in terms of what's coming when, right? So if I say, we've got this great new feature that I've been working on about, um, you know, colors, for example, then 2 months from now, people will say, "How's that colors thing going?" And then maybe that's not something that winds up working out, or something that we prioritize something else, and then we've kind of boxed ourselves into a corner by talking about it. So that's why I don't really like to talk about what's coming in the future. But generally speaking, I can say that we're always working on a lot of new stuff. We've got many things in the fire, so to speak. I'm really excited about the future of TheBrain. As I said earlier, we really kind of realized one of the initial visions with version 11 in being able to kind of replace the notes editor with our own kind of from scratch implementation, which I don't know if people appreciate this, but I mean it is a kind of a Herculean task to build your own editor, we kind of knocked that out of the park, I think, and we'll be able to reap the rewards of that for some time to come. if you really want to know kind of what's coming in the brain, I mean, just look at what we've been doing and what we've got, and you can probably imagine um, what we've got in store and where we're going.
Great. Well, thanks, Harlan, and thank you everyone for joining us today. Some wonderful questions, and it was really wonderful for us, for Harlan and I, and everyone on the Brain team to share with you version 12 of the Brain, which we are all so incredibly ecstatic for and proud of. So feel free to write into us with more questions, support@thebrain.com if we didn't get to your question on the webinar today. And check out the Brain 12 on our website at www.thebrain.com. Just scroll to the bottom in the news area. There's a link to all that's happening with the Brain 12. Still in beta. You can follow along and learn more about the release and all the new features that are out and are on the way. Thanks everyone again. Have a wonderful rest of the week, and as always, enjoy your brain.
Thanks, everybody.